Check, 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 check. 1, 2. Hey, how's that? Better? Is that better? Do we have sound now? Have we got sound now? Tell me we've got sound. There, how's that? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, good deal. This will make a fun intro on the recording. All right, cool. I'm gonna pull up a couple things. Sorry about the time, guys. Time got a little bit away from me, and as it is wont to do. So, in any case, we had a couple of requests for things to talk about tonight, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into those, and then we'll have some time for like Q&A and just chit-chat afterwards. So, let me jump over to what I wanted to look at here real quick. Again, I'll get better at this. We're working on it. All right. So, window capture. We want photos. It's echoing now. It's not good. How's that? Does that work? Do we have no more echo? Do we have no more echo or no more sound? No more echo or no more sound? That's much better. If it gets echoey again, let me know. I'm tinkering around with the inputs here. Cool. And I think there's a little bit of a delay on the chat, so it could have gotten echoey again. I could have changed something and it could come back, so I'll just keep me posted. Let's see here. So we are going to go ahead and switch over to Windows Capture. Oh, come on. Well, I'll start talking about this while I'm getting this pulled up. So one of the questions that it's echoey again. There, how's that? Is that better? I'm really bungling it tonight, guys. Good. Okay. We're back. Does it sound tinny or does it sound pretty decent? Because I want to make sure I'm not on the camera mic. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and minimize that and throw this up here. Let's see. Awesome. I'm glad it sounds okay. All right. So, so one of the questions that I put out in the community was whether or not, or what questions you guys wanted to talk about, because I'm open to anything. So, a couple of the questions that came up first was there were two really good related topics. First of which is the myth of high amperage machines. And then the second was Hoover's old cleaning effectiveness rating, which is hilarious. That's such a good time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this up. All right. So what we've got here is actually, I'll come back to this. Let me pull up a different one. So first, let's talk about amperage, because amperage on a vacuum became a really big deal in like the late 90s and has continued to be a selling point of modern machines. So the issue with that is that it's not really all about amperage that determines your cleaning. So there's a few different things to look at with regard to that. What it really comes down to is cleaning efficiency. So what is the efficiency of the machine while it is cleaning. Um, so that is what it really comes down to. So we're going to take a look at a couple of images here, and I think they will be enlightening. I know a lot of you guys are like pretty hardcore vac guys, but for anybody who stumbles on this and has never seen this before, this is really helpful. So what we're looking at here is move that over there. So what we're looking at here is something that I found that Oric put out a while back, and essentially what it is showing the difference between the way an Oric works versus, say, a Dyson. So this is really, really good for my argument in terms of efficiency, because with an Oric or any direct air machine, old Kirby's, old like not Electroluxes, old Eurekas, old Hoovers, anything that was built, prior to probably anything American that was built prior to 1985 in like an upright form is usually going to be what we call a direct air machine. So this is Oric's diagram on what a direct air machine does. So let's talk about efficiency. It has a very straight air pathway. So you've got the fan right here. You've got the air coming in. You've only got maybe 4 or 5 inches between the air intake and the brush roll. So you get very, very high velocity right down to the carpet. So cleaning wise, they clean fantastic. And the interesting thing is that they clean fantastic, but they only are running at 5 amps, 4.5. And that's true of a lot of older machines. You don't see direct air machines from back in the day running anything more than 4 to 6 amps. As the amperage wars started up, you saw some popping up. I think the max that they kind of went was maybe around 8. But at least generally there might have been some exceptions. But in any case, that's the reason why, is because that Oric's direct or the direct air's suction path, they call it a suction path, I don't like that, air path, is more efficient. Most of them work off this same principle where it pulls the dirt into the motor past an impeller fan, shoots it up into the bag, which was fantastic for carpet cleaning, but is not good for a few other things. First of all, they suck at filtration. So if anybody's ever turned on an old vacuum, seen that poof of dust come out of the bag, that is very typical of old direct air machines, because you only have one layer of filtration. In a lot of really old machines, that was just the cloth dump bag. So you just had a cloth bag that you dumped out, and you just put that dirty bag right back on the machine. And those were awful. And then, of course, you had the paper liner bags that went inside a cloth bag as they kind of developed the system. In either case, eventually it's going to get saturated with dust, and you're going to end up with, particulate heading back out into the room. So that was the first thing. Second thing was, in terms of user error, they were more prone to user error because of the fact that everything you picked up went past an impeller fan, right? So you ran the risk of either damaging your housing or the fan itself. Whether it was made out of plastic or whether or not it was made out of metal didn't really matter. Honestly, and maybe you guys will agree with this, I think plastic is preferable to metal. I don't think that metal has enough give. I feel like the plastic will take more abuse prior to shattering, whereas metal just eventually it fatigues and just gives out. So that was another thing, is if you picked up a penny or if you had your kids vacuum, you could be out of fan, and then you got to take it in for service. The third thing that these guys were missing was they were missing tools on board. So again, as time went on, eventually you kind of saw some manufacturers who would put tools on a direct air machine. Both Hoover and Eureka did that with like the old Elites and the Bravo platform, all those, and those were terrible because while direct air has great airflow, tons and tons of airflow, lots of velocity, what it doesn't have is sealed suction. The motor's not built for that. So when you're using tools, you need kind of an equal combination of both to really be effective. And even when they were fitted with tools, they were just no bueno. So what happened was, I'll tell you exactly, and this goes back, if you guys have seen my Sharp video, the one where I changed the belt on the Sharp, what happened is the Japanese came in, and this wasn't like necessarily unique to them, but it was definitely popularized by the Japanese brands, was the clean air design. Okay, so in that case, what you're doing is you're bringing up, and I'll show you guys, I think I've got another image here. Let's see. Let me find it for you. There we go. All right. So now you can't see me at all, but then they came out with essentially a clean air machine, which was taking like an old canister style machine and flipping it upright. So essentially what you have is you've got the air coming in through the nozzle, through the hose, through a bag, through a filter, maybe there might be a filter there, through the motor, and then back out into the room. So let's talk then about efficiency. What you're dealing with is you're dealing with a longer length that you have to pull the air, which reduces air velocity. It means that you have to have more of a puller than a pusher motor. So what that means is that you have to have a higher powered motor in order to do the same job that you would have had on a direct air machine like the Auric in the diagram over there. So that's really all that means is, and so the Japanese came in, kind of flipped the upright or the canister design upright, and so what they found really quickly is they were running machines that were like 7 or 8 amps, and they weren't cleaning worth a darn. So what ended up happening is the amperage wars, which happened around the late 90s. Everybody started kind of escalating, right, up until the cap. So the cap for a vacuum is 12 amps. Because if you go above 12 amps for a household appliance, you're going to start popping breakers and blowing out sockets and, run into wiring issues. So liability-wise and just wisdom-wise, not something that you want to do, right, for liability. So everybody's topped out at 12 amps. Now, did that make clean air machines clean better? In some instances, yes. Did it make, was it necessary to get the same amount of cleaning as a direct air motor? Yeah, I think in the case of that system, the efficiency was lower, so yeah, I think it was necessary. So really, it brought on parity between the clean air and the direct air. A lot of people will argue, myself included, the direct air still cleans carpet better, but for the features that people wanted, adding filtration, adding effective tools, having quieter machines, all those things, and vacuums that were motor protected, the dirt wasn't heading through an impeller fan. So for all those reasons, they were certainly an improvement. And then came the dawn of the bagless machine, right? So the bagless machine, as we see here in this diagram, is a little bit complicated. The way I describe this to people is, you literally can measure with a yardstick or a measuring tape the amount of distance between like a direct air machine's intake and where it dumps out into the bag. So you're talking about, usually well under 3, I'd say well under 2.5 feet, for a lot of machines. particularly like the old Hoovers and Eurekas, those flat body styled ones that, were pancaked to the floor. So things like this guy. Pull this up for you. Found all these cool schematics. Let's see. Yeah, so things like this guy where you had a horizontal fan implementation. So you have the nozzle right here, you've got the impeller fan right here, and literally this is the exit out into the bag. So, you're talking inches between the air and the floor, right? Patent 1944. Super cool. So what bagless machines did, and particularly Dyson's, but they're all bad at this, is they again lowered the efficiency of the machine. So what they're doing is they're creating a more complex air pathway. A more complex air pathway requires that you have a more powerful motor. And what happens when you're maxed out at 12 amps? There have been some improvements in terms of efficiencies. Motors have gotten a lot better with time. They're turning at higher RPMs. We've got better bearings than we used to, more precision. And that's if you're using a good motor, though. So efficiencies have improved with regard to the motor design and what the motor is capable of doing, but it's fighting this inefficient system, which is why typically you will see, and this is not true across the board, but again, in generalities, you're going to see bagless machines have higher suction because they're using 12 amperage, really efficient motors, and you're going to see them have lower airspeed, so CFM. The reason being is because, again, you're losing velocity as you pull the air through that complex air pathway that's required to get the air through the tool system, get it through the root cyclones in the case of a Dyson, get it through the filters. And that's another thing that can change the efficiency both of clean air machines and also clean air machines and bagless machines, is the loading of either paper bags or filters. That hurts efficiency as well, and that's something that, again, direct air machines, it doesn't really affect them because of the way that they're designed. It doesn't affect them as much, certainly. We've all used a bagged upright, a clean air upright, where you get the bag halfway full and you notice a big decrease in performance, particularly back in the old paper bag days. The same thing can happen with both polybag machines now as well as bagless machines, and that happens when you load up the filters. So again, you're lowering the efficiency of the unit by loading up the filters with a bunch of crud, and it can't move air as fast. It's also going to not be able to cool itself as well, which means it's going to be running hot, which also hurts the efficiency. So all of those factors come into play. Now, for me personally, would I go back to a direct air machine for my house? I wouldn't. I need tools. I have kids. I've got a mess all the time. And then also I need filtration because I've got allergies. Believe it or not, working here at the vac shop, people probably think I'm immune, but I'm not. So in any case, I wouldn't go back, but you have to maintain them. So if you've got a machine, even with a poly bag, and you never change the filter, it's like making your vacuum run a marathon with a washcloth over its face, right? It just can't breathe. Same thing with bagless machines. People neglect those filters and they notice big drops in performance. So why am I getting off on this tangent? Well, we're talking about amperage. So does amperage directly relate to cleaning capability? No, it's dependent on the design of the machine. Clean air HEPA uprights as well as bagless uprights do require 12 amps to get even close to capability of a direct air machine with regard to carpet cleaning. Um, but um, but those direct air machines are super efficient, and they can get a lot done with really low amps. Um, Now, that being said, there are some high-end brands, particularly I would say Miele, with their Vortex motor. Those motors are beasts, and they only run at, what do they run at? 10 amps, I think. Um, so they're not even running a full 12, and they'll outperform, you know, pretty much any clean air system that you hook up a suction gauge or a airflow meter to. They just have a tremendous amount of power coming out of that motor, and it's because it's a high-end proprietary design um, that they've optimized for their system. They aren't dropping in a third-party motor from Amtech or Lam. They aren't just farming it out to like some cheap Chinese plant. They're making really nice motors, and those you don't need 12 amps. You can get away with 10, and they will out clean a 12 amp bagless all day long. So all that to say, people get really hung up on amperage, and they shouldn't. AJC, tandem air, best of both worlds. Tandem air is a spicy topic with vacuum geeks in the vacuum world. So here's my take on tandem air. I think that they are very good tools for specific applications. So for anybody who doesn't know, a tandem air machine has two motors that it uses for cleaning. It uses a direct air motor like the Oric on your right, and what that does for it is it gives really good floor cleaning. And then it also has, following the bag, a direct air motor or a clean air motor. So that is giving you the ability to run tools, giving you the ability to pull the air through for filtration purposes. So it really does. It gives you the efficiencies of a direct air machine, along with the capabilities of a bypass machine with regard to the filtration and the tools. That being said, they're super complex. If you maintain them well, they'll last you no problem. That might not be true for the first generations. I would probably say for the Radiants, I wasn't a Simplicity dealer at the time, so I always forget the Simplicity models. But for the Radiants, the big one that first came out, I would say anything past the Rad 4, pretty good. They pretty much got the kinks worked out. I would not buy anything below the Rad 4 because those were absolute nightmares. But it was a proprietary technology on a brand new machine from a very small company. So I mean, it was what it was, and they took care of it. They did revisions, etc. The Brilliance was pretty decent out of the gate. I'd say probably the Brilliance, I'd probably go anything past like a 0.3 on the revision scale. So I mean, they're pretty. They are by far the best combination of carpet cleaning and convenience. Would I recommend one for somebody who has a lot of bare floor or area rugs? No, that's too much vacuum. Would I recommend it for somebody who has something low pile like Berber? Probably not. Again, it's the wrong tool for the job. This is specifically for people who have medium to high cut pile or loop pile that require an extreme amount of airflow, like if they have pets. If they want the very best in cleaning for carpet, wall-to-wall carpet, that is the way to go. Hands down, it'll out-clean any other vacuum, but they have to be okay with the fact they're going to be a little bit finicky. They're going to have to get them serviced on a regular basis. If they let their housekeeper or their kids use it, they might break a fan. It just brings with it some extra complication, which is what you sacrifice in order to get that level of cleaning and convenience. So it's not for everyone, but I think for what they are intended to do, they do it very well. So yeah, the conversation used to be a lot more simple before tandem air. You know, you direct air or you bypass, choose your poison. You know, the tandem air definitely changed the game. Now the tandem airs run Radiance runs at, or now the R40 runs at 12 amps. The Brilliance, its smaller version, runs at 11. But the biggest difference, in my opinion, is not the amperage so much as the size of the motors. The Radiance, especially on the direct air motor, has a much larger impeller, or significant enough that it makes a difference. You know, it gives you a lot more air velocity. So, you know, again, if you're going for ultimate cleaning, that's the one to get. You know, but if you want to save a little bit of money, the Brilliance will still out clean pretty much anything in its path. You know, other than the Radiance. So, I'm definitely not a Tacony fanboy. I mean, I sell their products. I sell Sibo, I sell Miele, I sell Riccar, I sell Simplicity. Those are my main brands for household machines. And I mean, again, they are a small family-owned company, so I don't expect them to operate on a level that, say, I expect Miele to, which is multinational, even though it's family-owned. It's a huge, huge company. And for what it is, Tacony has always treated me really well, and has always taken care of my customers. So I have no complaints as a dealer. You know, I think that they're great machines. So again, it's a little bit of a testy topic, the tandem airs, but you know, for what it's worth, I do sell them, and I do recommend them for certain customers. But it comes down again to that idea of, you know, not every machine is you know, you need the right tool for the job. Just because something is quote unquote the best carpet cleaner doesn't mean it's going to work in your house. So hopefully that kind of answers the question with regard to amperage. I know I get off on rabbit trails there, but it comes down to system efficiency first and foremost, and then what does the motor have to be running at to compensate for the efficiency or lack thereof. So now let's look at another photo. So that brings up another topic, which is the classic. Let me get rid of this other image. The classic Hoover cleaning effectiveness per amp. This is great. So we were talking about the amperage wars, and somebody asked, like, let's talk about cleaning effectiveness per amp. This is amazing. Like, you know, I don't know. I guess somebody still could come out with something like this today, but it definitely seemed like a product of its time. So Hoover and Eureka, you know, a lot of the main, you know, legacy manufacturers here in the U.S. were kind of caught off guard by the amperage wars. Their platforms weren't meant to handle that kind of power, so they're running a lot of direct air motors, you know, Legacies, Elites, you know, these Encores, what else? Anyways, they've got, you know, a lot invested in low amperage machines, which doesn't mean they're bad. They're cleaning well. They're direct air machines. So what they do is they realize they can't compete on amperage. That's what people are really pushing all of a sudden. So, you know, you see like Panasonic upgrade their machines to 12 amps. If you see Sharp upgrade their machines to 12 amps, you start seeing all these increases, and Hoover's like, well, we can't advertise that this is 6 amps, right? Let's look at efficiency. But they're looking at it differently than what I was talking about, like the efficiency of the actual system, right? So what they're saying is, how many cleaning effectiveness units do you get per amp? Well, what is a cleaning effectiveness unit per amp? Nobody knows. All we know is that the number increases as you get more expensive in their lineup. So, so in the case of this one makes zero sense. I had to laugh at this one. I ran across this on a Google image search. I think it might have been even posted in Vacuum Land. So it's 6 cleaning effectiveness units per amp at 6.7 amps. So you get less than a unit of cleaning effectiveness per amp. You know, you'd think you'd want to make the formula so you actually got more, but I don't know how that was a selling point. This was the most ridiculous one I'd seen. But we have another example here. Let me pull it up. And I apologize, guys. When I'm not in a conversation, when I'm just rambling, I just ramble a lot. So I apologize. Let's go ahead and get rid of this guy. All right, so I had to do Adobe Super Resolution because this was really low res, so it actually cleaned it up enough so that we can read it. Right there on the right-hand side of the nozzle, you see cleaning effectiveness per amp was 19.5. So what causes this, which is probably running right around 7 amps would be my guess. I think that's about what they ran at, 7 or maybe 8. I think it was more like 7. Oh yeah, 7.2. It's right there. 7.3. So yeah, I was right on the money. 7 amps. So why, with only one more amp, does this get a cleaning effectiveness unit or cleaning effectiveness per amp measurement of 19.5, whereas the Encore we just looked at got a what did it get? A 6. It's because of the way the vacuum's built. So there is some sort of formula that Hoover used. I'm assuming that they didn't just arbitrarily. I think for purposes of truth in advertising, they would have to have some sort of formula that they plugged in. They couldn't just arbitrarily assign these units. So the Encore that we looked at was a straight suction machine. So it had no brush roll. It just had the small motor. And so it would do things like bare floors, right? But you put that on carpet and it's going to be a nightmare. Whereas this guy was a Legacy, which was middle of the pack. So it was middle of the road for Hoover's lineup. It was above the Elite, not quite at the Dimension or Power Drive level. So the Legacy had 2 rows of brushes, whereas the Elites, or at least the early Elites, only had 1 row of brushes on the brush roll. I think the Elites might have been slightly lower amperage too. I don't, you know, if I'm wrong on that, don't. I'm not swearing on a stack of Bibles, but I do believe that was the case. So there were differences in design, usually the brush roll, that made the cleaning effectiveness higher. So you could use this on, say, carpet, etc. But all this comes down to is that, well, I don't believe the assignment of the number was arbitrary. I do believe they had a formula for it. The formula was arbitrary. So they were just making it up as they went along. They were like, how can we get a higher number out of this low amperage? We'll come up with our own rating system. No problem. Now, a lot of people looked at this label and they wouldn't see there that it says uses only 7 point whatever amps. They would see amp 19.5. I sold vacuums during this time, guys, and they would come in and say, like, I saw a 20 amp machine at Walmart. And I'm like, no, you didn't. I'd have to go and get another Hoover to show them that's not the amperage. That's cleaning effectiveness per amp. And they say, well, what is that? I'd say, I don't know. So So just completely arbitrary. No other manufacturer used this ranking system, and it's just ridiculous. So it was a truly unique move by Hoover to try to salvage a lot of their lineup without having to do ground up redesigns of like all of their uprights. So just a really funny, unique thing that happened in the vacuum industry. So, in any case, that's a little bit about amperage, um, and also cleaning efficiency. So, that's all I really had queued up tonight to talk about. I thought that those were two pretty good ones. Peter, is it Peter? Peter, maybe you recommended this. I don't remember. Maybe Intelitech. Maybe it was you. Um, Stories about customers. Man, I've had some interesting customers. The weird thing is, like, as time goes on, let's see, Rick Hoover, and they got sued for it, so they have to add the amperage to say per amp. Yep. I do vaguely remember that now because it was just, people totally believed that it was the amperage. They'd roll out with like 19.5. It's like, yeah, that'd blow out your fuse box, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, so anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, stories. So it's weird. It all blurs together after a period of time. Like I have a really bad memory with regard to like personal interactions anyway. I have trouble remembering names. I have trouble remembering things that I did with people. Like it's just I'm usually thinking about something else. I know that sounds terrible to say. Um but I'm trying to think. I'll tell you the craziest story that I can remember that didn't involve a customer. I'll try to sprinkle more stories in the next live streams. The craziest was I was working at a vacuum store in Paso Robles, California, um, and I was the manager of the shop. And we had an earthquake, and I think it was 6.7. It was big. It was legit. Um, Literally, I think that there is still a hole in the parking lot of the town hall from the sulfur spring that opened up during that earthquake. They didn't know what to do with it, and I last time I was there, which was a few years ago, but last time I was there, I think it was still open. But in any case, we had an earthquake, and this was 2002, I think 2002 or 2003, and one of the like multiple buildings, the fascias on multiple buildings downtown. It was like we were right adjacent to the old downtown, and they all collapsed. So just covered cars. Fortunately and unfortunately, I think only a couple of people died, and they were on the sidewalk because it was the fascias that collapsed. But I thought a bomb had gone off because it was just like the whole building shook, and then I looked downtown, and all I see is a huge cloud of smoke. It was from the mortar, the bricks collapsing, but I thought for sure that like it was like terrorism or something like that. So I ran down there because my best friend worked in a shop that had its fascia collapse. Unfortunately, the buildings didn't. A lot of them had to be torn down because they weren't sound after that. But uh, it was the craziest time to try to figure out like, okay, was this malfeasance? And then slowly come to the realization that no, this is everywhere, and that it was an earthquake. So that was my craziest day at work, I think. Pretty much ever. I think the earthquake takes the cake for weird days at work, even in my other jobs. So there's a story for you. I'll try to come up with more customer stories. I've got them. I just have to rack my brain. So what else you guys got going on tonight? I personally have a Mila C3 on the bench right now, and I also have a high zero to do before I go home. So I can't let this go too late. We'll probably end around 12:15 if we get to chatting. So, but What else you guys got around vacuums? Anything cool? Any questions? Comments, concerns, accusations? There's definitely a delay on this chat, so I'm just kind of gonna chill out while I'm waiting for them to come in, because I'm sure they will. I do see Chris E says SIBO, nothing but the best. I do like me some SIBOs. I do indeed. We've gone from. Hey, Michael, welcome. I do like me some SIBOs. We've gone from probably selling 70% Mila to. I would say we're probably. I mean, I would say Mila is maybe 20% of what we sell now. Intelitech just fixed up a 4870 for fun. Nice. I do have one down in the basement. I gotta look at it. I don't even know what model it is. Peter, do you think newer Kirby's filter good? Yes and no. Newer Kirby's are definitely better since the introduction of poly bags. People call them HEPA bags because when they're brand spanking new, they can reach HEPA standards. The two concerns that I have are, number one, poly bags can still leak and bleed allergens once they're saturated with dust, and that happens on bigger bags. So as time goes on, you'll get more bleed through. And what happens on direct air machines like a Kirby now, if you use the poly bags, is it will still, those allergens and whatnot will still make their way and kind of live in that cloth bag. So unless you're constantly changing the bag and constantly, well, not constantly, but regularly cleaning that outer bag, it's still not the best setup for allergy sufferers. If you don't have allergies and you don't live in a high dust area, it would be fine. Yeah. Chris, yes, I do love me some SIBOs. Would you like to give your Intelitech? Would you like to give your testimony on my favorite vacuum brand, the lovely Phantoms? I talked about this a little bit in the last live stream, I think, but Phantoms were a nightmare. Oh my gosh, it does not cease to amaze me that Phantom is like a collector's item. Yes and no, because they're so rare now. Because like I threw away so many Phantoms. Like I could see a Phantom walk through the door, and if it was a Thunder, I knew it was one of two things for sure. It was either the housing where the brush roll sat got damaged, because they had a tendency to do that because the way the brush roll seated in the housing, and the housing was really thin. It was either that or it's motor bearings. Motor bearings probably 80% of the time. I mean, like those things just chewed through motor bearings, and it's because there was no pre-filter prior to the motor. I just threw away so many of those. I mean, they're kind of cool. They're kind of cool to look at as a throwback now, for sure. I mean, I wish that I had some because I'd be super rich. Let's see. Rick Hoover just refurbished a Wind Tunnel Deluxe 5460. Nice. The old wind tunnels, man. Those are good tried and true machines. Let's see. Fix an ugly Hoover convertible today. Green with a houndstooth bag. Nice. Houndstooth. That's old then. Yeah, man. Those old convertibles, that one's probably running at 4 amps. It still cleans like the dickens. What do you think about the Hoover Dimension 1000? I mean, it's that was the upper scale of what Hoover was doing, you know, that wasn't power drive. So I mean, like, they're cool old machines if you can find them. Again, like when you get into the Elites, Legacies, the Dimensions, The Dimension wasn't power drive, was it? Now I'm trying to think. I can't remember. I feel like the power drive unit from that generation didn't really. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, all that to say, those Hoovers from that generation, I've gotten more fond of as time has gone on. At the time that I was working in, started working in vacs, they were like pretty low on the totem pole in terms of vacuums that you would want or recommend. And I did. I threw away a lot of them that had issues because they just weren't worth fixing. But as time has gone on, I realized that what I thought couldn't get worse in terms of build quality for vacuums did. They continually found ways to cheapen machines. And really, honestly, those platforms weren't too bad in the grand scheme of things. The fact that there are still some running around, that says a lot. You know, I don't think we're gonna see any 20-year-old sharks hanging around. That's for sure. So that's a great question. Me and my houseplants. Oh, P.S. Me and my houseplants. I made you a mod and I forgot to email you. So sorry. So you got special powers. So the situation, that's a great question. The situation right now around right to repair and vacuums is that we're in the same situation that a lot of other industries are in, with one exception. Our lifeline right now is high-end vacuums, because high-end vacuums still have parts distribution. And that is probably going to change, I would imagine. I mean, it's really only a matter of time before that changes. And that's why, you know, I deal with the brands that I do. I deal, again, with Miele, Sebo, and Tacony, predominantly. And the reason is because I can get parts. So not only am I the seller of the vacuum, I can also be the service center. And what I bring to the table that other retailers don't is after sales service and the ability to repair. Without that, you're up a creek, right? But there is no right to repair. There's nothing saying that a vacuum manufacturer has to, you know, stock parts for even a vacuum that is currently produced. I mean, what they'll honestly do is, I mean, if you ship a vacuum back to Shark for a warranty repair, they're just going to give you a refurbished unit. So I don't know what they do with the old ones. If they are repairable, they probably refurbish them. If there's something seriously wrong, I don't know what they do with them. But again, they just replace the unit. There's nothing with regard to parts. So I think all that they really have to do is be able to honor the warranty, and giving somebody a refurbished machine is technically doing that. And it's easier to do with a $200 or $300 upright than it is with a $1,500 Miele. So, in any case, we can still get parts for the brands that I carry. Kirby. Let's see. What are some other high-end brands that I can still get parts for? We can get some Hoover parts. Hoover's becoming worse, though. The older a machine is, the less chance that we're going to be able to get parts for it, because TTI basically is like cut off the supply for anything older. In any case, with regard to regulation or changing right to repair, there's nothing really in the pipeline unless they make sweeping rules over all consumer electronics and appliances. There's nothing saying that they're going to have to, and I haven't heard any rumors of that. So we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens, because I do know that it's currently being discussed in Washington. So at least it's being discussed. What's going to come of that, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of very moneyed people who have a vested interest in making sure that that doesn't happen. So it's really going to come down to the people versus the corporations, and we know how that usually works out. which is unfortunate. So let's see. A U4101. Any way to fix the vinyl bag? Magic Electric's asking. Has some holes in it. If it's the vinyl outer bag, I think you're talking about. Wait, U4101. Oh, yeah, you're talking about. Is that a convertible? If it's a convertible, you're probably out of luck. They don't make the. Let me just type that in real quick. I'm gonna pull up my browser. All right, what was it? It's U4101. That's a Hoover. Let's check it out. Yeah, convertible. Yeah. The best I would say is you cannot get new outer bags for those. You can't get genuine or replacement. Once they go, they're pretty much toast. The best that you can do is continue to nurse your old one. My recommendation would be there's so much perforation on those vinyl outer bags that it doesn't matter if you block some of those perforations. It's not going to affect the performance of the machine. I would say maybe something like a raft patching kit where you have like, a rubber piece that you actually chemically bond to the plastic. That would probably be the best in terms of holding up. It's not going to look pretty, but it'll keep you on the road. Because those bags, those outer bags are unobtainium. Can you explain the geometric measurements Dyson uses to claim superior carpet cleaning on their uprights? So I don't know enough about the way that Dyson measures that to speak with any kind of expertise. So I want to tread a little bit lightly on that one. But I will say that there's no test that a manufacturer will do that doesn't benefit their machines. I don't care who it is. High end, low end, family owned corporation, it really doesn't matter. They're going to find ways to measure performance that benefit their machines. That's just the long and short of it. So what I tend to do personally, and I don't get caught up on numbers either, because numbers aren't all about cleaning efficiency. Do we measure numbers at the motor? In terms of airflow and suction? Do we measure them at the tools? Do we measure them at the nozzles? How do we, and what are the other effects? What happens when a filter loads up? Is there a machine that's more efficient when that happens? There's just so many variables. In my opinion, and this is just me, I know a lot of people love to geek out on testing, and that's well and good. And I mean, I definitely geek out on testing too, doing the batteries. But you can see and you can feel how a vacuum cleans, and I base most of my opinions on experience with machines, and my experience with Dysons is that their cordless vacuums clean better than average for cordless vacuums, but not as good as mains. But they still are impressive for what they are. Their mains power vacuums are nothing special. I'll be real. Like, I don't think they clean. They don't knock my socks off, that's for sure. There's a whole host of other machines that I would buy for similar money that I have used and clean better side by side. So I don't know anything about the measurements though, so I don't want to speculate. Let's see. Michael, put the HEPA filter back on my Capricorn. It cut the airflow too much. Yeah, you could try the regular filter if you've got the filter frame for it, Michael. Mila, you got to get the frame that fits in where the HEPA was that will hold that filter that comes in your package bags, but you can try that. Let me know, though, if that was a new HEPA. If it was an old HEPA, you might need to get a new one. Again, how long you've used that HEPA can really affect efficiency. With vacuums here on the showroom, I can switch between the different filters, and I've never really felt a difference or measured a difference on the actual intake end of the vacuum. You will probably feel a difference on the exhaust end because the HEPA filter is going to be more baffled. Because it uses accordion pleats, it's going to send the air out more dispersed and in different directions, whereas the the air clean filter that comes in the package of bags, it is not nearly as it doesn't have nearly as much dispersal ability, so it's just going to basically come out in one shot. So it's going to feel like a harsher and more powerful exhaust. I would measure things by whether or not you're seeing a difference at the hose. One controversial machine I got was a DC-28. Somehow it works perfectly. DC-28, is that the air muscle? Did you get an air muscle? I can't remember what a DC-28 is. I'm as bad with model numbers as I am with names. Let's see. Oh, it is an air muscle. I was right. Nice. I've come across a few that still work. I'll be honest. Man, those springs in the head make a ton of noise, though. I tell you what. Yeah, I don't know how there are still any on the road, but there are a few. I see them come in, and there's a couple that we've repaired, and it's be going. I don't know what the variation is in terms of what makes those things last versus not, but they are an absolute technical nightmare. Oh man, they're the worst. I think that Alex did a video on the air muscle. I'm almost 100% sure, and yeah, they're terrible to work on. Rick Hoover, what's the absolute worst vacuum you've worked on? Well, in terms of like nastiest versus design, there's been a couple really nasty ones. Most of them involve critters. I'm kind of used to like pet pee, like that, you know. Unfortunately, at least to my knowledge, I've never run into a vomit machine. But there are a couple that stand out in my mind. Not long ago, and I didn't work on this machine, so I can't claim it as mine, but my dad did get a vacuum that had a snake in it. It was a ringneck snake, and that was not cool. I'll tell you the grossest one that really grossed me out. There was a spider one that was pretty bad, but the spider one I just went slow and it was fine. The worst was there was a Dirt Devil. You know the old Dirt Devil straight suction canisters that they had? I don't know what the model number was, but they basically competed against the original Mighty Mite takes the C style bag. So they had one of those old red Dirt Devils straight suction canister, and the hose was clogged. I was brand new. Like I definitely not even worked at the vac shop for a year. Probably less than 6 months. And so I was trying to unclog it. It had a clog in the hose. I don't know what possessed me. Stupidest thing I've ever done, probably, was for some reason, I'm even embarrassed saying this, I like took the hose and I like blew into it to see if I could feel air moving through it, like, and nothing moved through it. I kind of got a little bit of back in my mouth, so I was like, oh, this is gross. So I spit in the trash can, called it good, took a drink of water. So I'm pulling down with a hook to get out whatever was clogging it. It was a mouse nest with a mummified mouse in it. And oh my gosh, that still haunts my dreams. Like, in fact, I put my mouth on that. So nasty. Michael, Phantom was a heavy vac to use. They were big, especially the Thunders. Let's see. Peter, do you still have that SIBO E3 vacuum for me? I do have the E3. I have not had time to look at it, Peter, so I haven't sold it or anything. Shoot me an email, like I said last time. It's hov@thehouseofvacs.com. I think you can find the link to our email address pretty much in any video description on our YouTube page. Just shoot me an email and give me your details, and we'll see what we can work out. What about the Phantom Lightning? The Lightning was better. The Lightning was the canister, right? Never mind. I take that back. I was thinking of the Fury. The Lightning, those were bad. I went through a lot of, again, motor bearings every single time. Like I so many with bad motor bearings, but I also saw a lot of bad hoses over time as well. Yeah, they just, they're problematic. They might have been a little bit better than the uprights, but I mean, like, not by much. Again, I'm not saying this to diss your love of Phantoms. Collecting is certainly different than back in the day when these were like just the hot ticket and every mom had them. It was like the shark of the day. So let's see, what's the best upright I had was a Panasonic. Panasonic made great vacuums. I mean, I still get in Panasonic uprights from the mid 80s, no problem. They just keep on trucking. If you take care of them, they'll take care of you. Yeah, the Hoover, Rick says, the Hoover Power Drive was top of the line. The Dimension Dirt Finder was the top mid. Yeah, that's what I thought. So it wasn't the Power Drive. Again, same platform as like the Legacy and the Elite, though. So, I mean, they kind of all functionally fall into the same category for me, where they're kind of charming as period pieces. I can't say that I think they're amazing, but I think they're pretty cool. I got that Elite down in the basement, and I'll probably hang on to it just because it's kind of nostalgic for me. I worked on my recent Phantom Fury, and then when I got it, thankfully it works great. Well, good. Phantom Fury. The Furies were definitely a little bit less persnickety than the Thunders. I think the Fury was the better vacuum, and they were lighter too, just not by much, but by a smidge. Whoa, Acclaimed. You got a Fury for $10? Man, flip that thing. Stat. You could send your kids to college. Sell it to Intelitech. He's got, just crazy, crazy money. Let's see. The Preferred and Elites were middle of the line, and the Encore was low end. Yeah. Let's see. Michael, what should I pay for a cord reel replacement on my Mila Capricorn? Mila has... let's see. Let me pull this up in my system. Mila S5. So Mila has map pricing on their cord reels, so pretty much anywhere you go, they're going to be the same. Let me double check one thing here for you. I would say it's right around $100. Is right around where the right around the pricing is for one of those. Let me go to my inventory. I think I stock them. S5. Cord reel. Yeah, they should be right around, I think they're about $120. I'm not seeing it just on first blush here though, but I think they're right around 100 to 120. So I think anywhere in that range you'll be pretty good. Let's see. Whoa, let's see, I went too far. AJC As convenient as stuff as Kirby's are, I have to admit I absolutely love using one on wall-to-wall carpeting. They're so nice to push. I agree. If you have wall-to-wall carpeting, Kirby's are very nice to use. I would agree with that. Especially if you get the power drive dialed in right. If you got one of those herky-jerky ones, they're just kind of a pain. But if you get one with the power drive and it's smooth, it's a very nice experience. Let's see here. Claimed have a DC65 that needed the Cyclone assembly replaced. Dyson wanted to replace it with the blue version, but it got the purple. Dang, 5-year warranty. Nice. I'm surprised you were able to get it, actually. A lot of Dyson parts are back ordered right now, so that's great that you were able to get it. Let's see. What do you think about the lawsuit between Dyson and Shark back in 2014 about their upright carpet cleaning advertisements? It's like two of the dumbest people. Like, if you had two of the dumbest people and they were arguing about who's smarter, like, that's exactly what Shark versus Dyson was. Like, it was just so dumb. It's really both of them use misleading advertising, so I don't think one of them has high ground to stand on. The fact that one of them took the other one to court was just absolutely, like, mind-blowingly non-self-aware. So I don't understand. I mean, it really is like the two stupidest people trying to figure out who's dumber. So that's all I gotta say about that. Michael, is a new HEPA. I don't know what to tell you. If you're gauging off the exhaust, could be the exhaust. It could just be the way it's baffled. If it's the intake, then do whatever works for you, man. Let's see. Yeah, Rick, Dirt Devil can vac. Those were back in the day. They were not as well made as the Eurekas, but they looked like a little Mighty Mite. They were a little stockier and a little shorter than the Mighty Mites, but I mean, they cleaned pretty well. They were cheap as dirt and they didn't last, but I mean, may still be able to find one around. The issue with those was more so that the the hose, the way that it attached, and it was kind of proprietary, and if that all breaks down and breaks, then it's just kind of, it's shot. Let's see. Oh, Michael reacting to the mouse story. Yeah. Gross. It was so gross. Oh man, the mouse story still haunts me. VacMaster asks, do you guys sell central vacuums? We do. So I sell predominantly modern day. That's who I'm familiar with. It's a little bit of a bummer. I started with modern day when I was in California, and that was super easy because they're all manufactured in Bakersfield, California. So I mean, I could get them within 2 days, and the freight was no problem. It was just easy as pie. Now that we're in Virginia and I'm ordering modern day, the freight is pretty brutal. They do have a warehouse now, I think, in Illinois, but that's a fairly recent development, and they really only stock the best sellers there, so it's still kind of a gamble as whether or not shipping's gonna murder you. But they make such good machines. I haven't. If people want a cheap machine, I'll sell them a Titan, which is kind of a private label through Steel City. I think it's I forget who private labels it for them. Somebody else will know, but anyways, they're not bad machines. Certainly not bad. And I am actually a Cyclovac dealer as well, although I've never sold one. I am signed up with them. I do have a account with Trovac. But modern day, mostly modern day. I don't do installs anymore, though. I just don't have the time. I used to do installs when I was, in California. I'd throw like everything that I needed into a 2004 Mazda 3, small car, not the hatchback, sedan. All my tools, all the pipes strapped to the roof, like
and I would show up on site, and guys would laugh at me, construction workers, and they'd be like, why are you driving this little car up to the construction site? And when I unloaded, they were shocked at how much I got in there, man. I had it down like Tetris. Um, but I don't install them anymore. People, if they want to buy it from me, they either install it themselves or have their contractor do it. I don't have the time or the insurance. It's a whole thing. Let's see. Got some convertibles. Yep, love the Fury, flaws and all, Intellitech. What do you think of the Oric Iron Man? Um, wasn't the Iron Man the wasn't the Iron Man the hang on. I think I'm thinking of the Dutch Tech. Oh yeah. The little canister. Um, yeah, they're good for what they are. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with them. They're good little straight suction canisters. Um, in terms of ease of use, I definitely prefer that they have casters on them. Um, and they're cool. They're kind of unique. They're not. The Buster B is nothing special, and it never was. I mean, the Buster B is a repackage. I think it was a Eureka model, old that Oric bought the rights to. So yeah, I think the I-90 is kind of a cool machine. I like it. Let's see. What do you think about quantum vacuums? Oh, the upright water vacuums. Those are a hoot. Oh man, yeah. I just don't tip one of those over. Whatever you do, just don't. Gosh, what a nightmare. I don't know if they have some sort of safety system on them or not, but that just sounds awful. Water vacuums and uprights should never mix. It's just not the right form factor. Canisters, yes. Uprights, never ever. What a mess. Oh man. Rick asked, you ever worked on a Regina housekeeper? I have. Yeah, many housekeepers back in the day. There were still quite a few on the road when I started, like 1998 ish. So, yeah, they're like definitely looked like it was like a beta project. It looked like something like a student team put together on the inside, but they worked. I mean, there were nothing to write home about. The molds were terrible. The fitting on the seams was awful. I mean, it just looked really amateur, but they worked, and they weren't for the price. They weren't bad machines. Regina housekeeper gets a lot of love from some people and a lot of hate from others, and I think they were kind of charming. It just looks like it was put together in the backwoods of Canada, which is basically what it was. um, let's see. What's your thoughts on the Bissell Healthy Home with airtight HEPA filtration? Um, eh, no. I just anything Bissell. Again, going back to like parts availability, design, the scruples of the manufacturer. Here's the thing: if I had to buy a vacuum that was $70, I would buy a Bissell. And here's the reason why. I'd buy a bagged Bissell. Is that the one you're talking about? The airtight HEPA filtration? Or are you talking about like a bagless machine? If it's bagless, they're just all the same. But for cheap, I'd buy a Bissell bagged machine for, whatever. They don't clean amazing, but they're simple. They're so simple. The bagged Bissells are. I'd have no hesitation. I mean, like you look at the bagged Kenmore Intuition, like the new one with the swivel neck like a shark, but it's got a bag. And then you look at a Bissell, I mean, like, they're in different price points, of course, but like the level of complexity that you get with some other bagged machines, even the current wind tunnel bagged machines from Hoover, the level of complexity, it just doesn't mesh well with the price point. It just ends up being kind of trashy over the long term. But the Bissell, you're getting what you pay for. It's super cheap. It's got a bag, and there's not a whole lot to go wrong until you burn out the motor, you melt the housing. Let's see. AJC, nothing sounds more inconvenient to me than a water vac like a Rainbow. Amen. Yeah. And if you've worked on as many as I have and seen what goes on inside those things, ugh, so nasty. Like, man, the mold factor alone is just out of hand. Let's see. IntelliTac on an H2O turbo. Fascinating machine. Still not a fan of water filtration. Again, it's one of those things like if you're a collector, I get it. Like I totally get, the appeal of like having something unique, whatnot. I wouldn't sell them to customers certainly, but I mean they're definitely cool to have around. I mean, it'd be kind of a kick. Let's see. Vacmaster, like my Cibo X5, they're great machines. AJC, what's your thoughts on the newer TriStars? Kind of expensive for what they are. I lump TriStar into the same category as Kirby, in that, well, really in Filter Queen and to some extent Eris. These are just old traditional companies that are just writing out a name, and they've not done any innovation in a long time. And what innovation they do is like purchasing rights to a power head to improve it. There's so many other options. But TriStars are cool. I like TriStars. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying for the money value, But I mean, like I like TriStars. They're fun old machines. Heavy as all heck, but they're fun. Peter, you have 8 of the Auric Ironman I-90s. Good grief, man. I don't remember the last time I saw one in person, to be honest. It's been a while. Me and my houseplants got a HEPA Rainbow. There's something oddly satisfying about it. Oh yeah, I mean like the demos, yeah, unless people know like how it works, then like it's so easy to get sucked into that. And I get the appeal. I mean, like there certainly is, and I think a lot of it I don't know what it is about a water vac cuz I know that they don't filter fantastic. I mean, the HEPA ones do because they're sealed, but generally like there's nothing special about what's going on with the filtration in terms of like ultimately what gets back out into the room. I don't know why. It might be the humidity that it adds to the air. The air has a different feel to it after you vacuum to the water vacuum. That is an appeal. That and the demo is just so easy. You just the water's super dirty. Look at what your house is hiding. It's easy. Let's see. IntelliTech, finally another tech understands why I love Bissell. Yeah, they're dead simple. Even the more complicated designs now, even with their like swivel necks and like the 2-motor system, one for brush roll, one for for cleaning, they're still super simple for what they are. Like if Shark was to have a go at that, or heaven forbid Dyson, I mean, the complications that would ensue, the over-engineering, they'd have like a team of 50 people working on it for 2 years to make like a spaceship. And Bissell walks in and they're just like, dude, we got like a protractor, we just whip this up. Like, yeah, they're awesome for what they are. Out of the cheap vacuums, I think that they're the simplest and the easiest to work on. Let's see. Bagless machine with microband protection inside the machine. Yeah. So you were talking about the Bissell it was a bagless machine with microband protection inside the machine. I forget what model you said it was. So here's my take on microband. And I really only know of this because of the pandemic and all the amount of research that I did, both because I work here and I own a business. I was trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do when COVID hit. And then I also work at the hospital. That's my day job. So, microban, the the actual microbes have to come in contact with the microban for a certain period of time for it to be effective. So if you've got a layer of dirt this thick, the only dirt that's going to be affected by that microban is what is right up against the treated surface. Um, so is it a good thing, bad thing? I don't think it really matters. You're going to have bacteria in there no matter what. If it's a sealed system, that's definitely a good thing. That being said, a sealed system plus bagless equals you got to maintain it. So you just got to make sure that you maintain that. Otherwise, you're going to lose performance because that sealed system is going to clog up with dust. But yeah, microban is a surface treatment. It's great for door handles, you know, commonly touched items. Like I've got a washing machine that is, oh, my light went out. Sad. That means I've been on here too long. I've got a washing machine that's microban treated around the seal, right? So it doesn't grow mildew. That's a perfect example of like where microban makes sense, because it would have to attach the actual surface of the plastic to be able to grow. Whereas when you're dealing with like anything that has volume, microban loses some of its appeal. Let's see. Worked on any whirlpool machines. I did back in the day. I haven't seen one for ever and ever and ever, but I did work on whirlpool machines back in the day for sure. Chrissy, TriStar's no longer in business. Is that what ended up being Patriot? I can't remember. I can't keep straight what's going on with both Filter Queen and with TriStar / Patriot / whatever's going on there. So Chris, you're probably right. The door-to-door world, I repair them. We don't even have any, unless there's a salesman in this area. I'm not up to speed on what's going on, and the only salesmen we've got in this area are Kirby now, and Kirby's kind of sketchy. There's not a regular guy, and then Rainbow. Let's see. Magic Electric. What would you say was Dirt Devil's best upright? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think back. The bagged. It was bagged. This is gonna sound weird, and maybe it's just because like I remember them from back in the day, and I'm nostalgic like that. But the bagged MVP swivel glide, they were built really cheap, but they didn't have a lot of problems. Like for what they were pretty decent little machines. I didn't mind them. Chrissy, you got sucked in. Let's see. Vacmaster says TriStar's owned by Electrolux. Interesting. Oh, TriStar's owned by Aris Electrolux. Okay, so the Aris side of things. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Can the Filter Queen canister filter down to 0.1 microns? I mean, not the ones that I was familiar with. Maybe the new ones, if they put like a cylindrical HEPA filter on the top, that would be sealed. I'm not familiar with what's currently coming out of Filter Queen. I haven't seen one for a while. But if they were able to put a cylindrical HEPA filter on top where the normal exhaust filter batting used to be, I'd say, yeah, they could probably get there. because at that point it would be a sealed system. Eris Electrolux owned TriStar, and then Eris closed TriStar. Interesting. Taking out their door-to-door competition, man. Well, Eris really isn't door-to-door that much anymore, but yeah, they still have some reps. Filter Queen just released a new model. Yeah, new model. Ultra MVP. Yeah, that's it. That's it. IntelliTech. It was the Ultra MVP bagged, with the little casters on the front. I don't know. I never thought that those were bad little machines. What vacuum are you selling the most of right now? VacMaster asks. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I'll tell you what we did for 2020, and our best-selling machine, other than like a budget machine. So like our on the budget side, our best-selling machine was Simplicity S20 EZM, and then the best-selling overall was the E3 in any one of the colors. Sold a lot of E3s, followed closely by SIBO K2s. Not K2s, sorry, K3s. That's what we sell the most of right now. But it changes. I'll probably do a report end of year this year to kind of let people know what we sold the most of. It'll be interesting. I don't think we were quite as hot this year on the E3. I think the K3 might have pushed it. People have been a little bit more careful with their wallets this year for obvious reasons. So that might be why. Let's see. Michael, what do you do at the hospital? So I am I work for a hospital system that has 4 hospitals and over 50 private practices, and a couple other service lines. And I work for the marketing department as a brand manager. So my team, the folks that I manage, we do all of the content creation. So video, graphics, billboards, all that jazz. So that's what I do. I'm the brand. I carry the brand standards for the system. So basically, I make sure that everything is logoed correctly, everything is fit into the right templates, that we don't go against brand policy, that fonts are right, that spacing is correct. It's just all of that. So that's why I'm part of and over the creative team, is because as they create content, then it filters up through me. I make sure that what they're creating is appropriate for the brand voice of the system, and then I pass it on. Yeah, thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. I mean, I'm definitely not as frontline as nurses, for sure. I can't even imagine. I work in an office, so it's, I've gone twice now, though, to the COVID ICUs, and it's tough. It's really tough. I went up there just for marketing purposes and to kind of see what they were doing and to take some photos, and it's a hard time. I'll tell you what, I'm glad things are getting a little bit better. What's the oldest machine you've worked on so far? It was an old Hoover. I think it was from the 40s, upright. No, it was from the 30s. 30s? Pretty sure. It was a really old Hoover upright. Kind of looked like the fat version of like a Royal metal upright, where it kind of went out and had the vertical fan. Yeah, it was old, but I mean, that was a while ago. That was probably early 2000s I worked on that. Microbe X for the Filter Queen vacuum. Oh, are they treating the Microbe X? Is that the filtration system? Is it a sealed filtration system, Peter? AJC, that's explains why your production quality is so good. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. My video kind of grew along with, it was kind of symbiotic, like, I'll be honest, like what I do for this channel is typically not up to the standards of what I do for the hospital. I do some video production for the hospital, and that is higher production quality, but I'm super limited on time for this channel, so I prefer to get stuff out than stress and have it be perfect. And trust me, sometimes I get in my head and I want it to be perfect and it drives me nuts. But I really appreciate that. I appreciate you shouting out the production quality, because that means a lot. Let's see, 4436. I'm looking for a carpet washer for my home. You recommend a Bissell Pro Revolution or a Hoover Smart Wash? I'll be real with you. I would not buy either of those. I would probably look into getting a refurbished Rug Doctor. And here's the reason why. Hoover shampooers and Bissell shampooers are trying to replicate machines that cost a couple of grand, but they're trying to do it for a couple $100. So anytime you do that, you're going to have a very limited lifespan and problematic quality and reliability and just function. You think about the amount of water that those things lay down and then the amount that they extract, and you're leaving probably 30% of the water in the carpet. And that's with soap, with dirt. The soap starts to build up and it attracts. And if the soap is not pH balanced, most carpet is using an acid dye. So if you use a basic shampoo on an acid dye carpet, so you have to make sure that it's pH neutral. You can mess with the stain resistance of your carpet is essentially what it'll do. So anyways, the reason I say Rug Doctor is because while they are portable machines, Rug Doctor does sell them refurbished. I think they do sell some cheaper models through maybe like Costco or Sam's sometimes. But they are closer to that professional level where you can get more extraction, and they're built to a higher standard. So instead of spending $250 twice over the span of 12 years, you're going to get a machine that's you'll pay double for, but it'll last that same 12 years and you won't have to go through two machines. So the costs kind of come out in the wash, and I think it'll do a better job. That'd be my recommendation. Oh, Chris is back. Oh, let's see. Houseplants, thanks. Appreciate that on the production. So yeah, that's all due to the marketing background. Let's see. Ever worked on a Eureka Excalibur or Europa canister? Yeah, Peter, I have. I'm sorry, Rick, I have. Not in a long time, but I have worked on those in the past. Yeah, Rick Hoover 115 Jr. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the oldest machine that I've worked on. Pretty sure. Like, especially back when I didn't know anything about vacuums, it was hard for me to date them. I just knew it was like really old, so let's see. VacMaster got a Rug Doctor Pro 2018 model, the newer version. Yeah, I mean, like, for the extra money that you're going to spend, you're going to get a lot better quality. Lot better quality going with something like a Rug Doctor, as opposed to the Bissell or the Hoover. I mean, it's night and day difference, both in terms of like what your experience is as a user, and then also what it does to your carpets. So any extra that you can extract from the carpets using a better system, I'm all for it. All right, we are at 12:40. This went way longer. I kind of intended to end it like 12:15, but we're half an hour past that. So this is going to be a really long live stream. I just enjoy talking with you guys. This is fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it too. Just fun to sit and geek out on vacuums. So, um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up so that I can get the rest of my work done because I got stuff to do, and so that everybody else can enjoy the rest of their evening. Um, so yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Be looking for. I'm trying to get more into short form video. I've been doing a little bit on TikTok and pushing that out as YouTube Shorts. You saw the first one on how to change your how to clean your bagless vacuum. So I'm gonna start pushing out a few more of those. So that I think is gonna give me the ability to be a little bit more regular with my videos without having to do like a full edit. So be looking for those coming up. And of course, we'll do this again in 2 weeks. So I will go ahead and schedule that this coming week, and we will go from there. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I'll talk